The Enfield Poltergeist, 1977, England. In 1977, the Hodgson family, living in a modest council house in Enfield, England, began experiencing disturbing supernatural occurrences. It started with strange knocking sounds, but soon furniture moved on its own. Objects flew across the room, and the children, especially 11-year-old Janet, seemed to be the focus of the activity. Janet was reportedly thrown from her bed, levitated in midair, and even spoke in a deep guttural voice that was later analyzed by paranormal experts. Neighbors, police officers, and reporters all witnessed bizarre events in the house. One officer even signed a statement confirming she saw a chair move across the floor without anyone touching it. The case was investigated by Maurice Grosse and Guy Lyon Playfair, members of the Society for Psychical Research. They documented over 2,000 incidents of paranormal activity. However, skeptics believe that Janet and her siblings faked at least some of the events. The Enfield case remains one of the most well-documented and debated poltergeist hauntings in history. It even inspired The Conjuring 2. 2. The Dyatlov Pass Incident, 1959, Russia. In February 1959, 9 experienced hikers set off on a trekking expedition in the Ural Mountains of Soviet Russia. They never returned. Weeks later, searchers found their campsite in a disturbing state. Their tent had been cut open from the inside, and the hikers' bodies were scattered across the snowy landscape, some partially buried in the snow, others miles away from the campsite. The victims were found in various states. Some had crushed skulls and broken ribs, yet no external wounds. One was missing her tongue and eyes. Strangely, some were dressed in only underwear despite the freezing temperatures, while others had pieces of clothing that showed traces of radiation. Investigators were baffled. Theories ranged from an avalanche, which didn't match the evidence, to secret military experiments, yet no definitive explanation has ever been found. The Soviet government quickly closed the case, stating the hikers died due to an unknown compelling force. To this day, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most chilling and unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. 3. The Murder of Elisa Lam, 2013, USA. In 2013, 21-year-old Canadian student Elisa Lam checked into the infamous Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, a place known for housing serial killers, suicides, and mysterious deaths. A few days later, she went missing. The last known footage of her, taken from an elevator security camera, was deeply unsettling. The video showed her acting strangely, stepping in and out of the elevator, pressing multiple buttons, peeking out as if hiding from someone, and making erratic hand gestures. Weeks later, after hotel guests complained about low water pressure and strange-tasting water, maintenance workers checked the rooftop water tanks. Inside one of the tanks, they discovered Elisa's decomposing body. The rooftop was locked, the tanks were difficult to access, and the circumstances of her death baffled investigators. The official cause of death was listed as accidental drowning, but many believe there was more to the story. Some suspect foul play, while others think she may have experienced a psychotic episode. The case remains unsolved, fueling countless theories about paranormal involvement, hotel history, and mental health. The Exorcism of Anneliese Michel, 1976, Germany. Anneliese Michel was a young German woman who, in the early 1970s, began experiencing terrifying symptoms. Voices in her head, hallucinations, and violent reactions to religious symbols. Raised in a strict Catholic household, her family believed she was possessed by demons rather than suffering from a medical condition. Doctors diagnosed her with epilepsy and schizophrenia, but medication didn't help. Her behavior worsened. She ate insects, drank her own urine, and spoke in multiple voices. She also displayed supernatural strength, often throwing family members across the room. Her parents turned to the Catholic Church for help, and after initial hesitation, 2 priests were assigned to perform an exorcism. Over 10 months, they conducted 67 exorcism sessions, some lasting up to 4 hours. During these rituals, Anneliese claimed to be possessed by multiple entities, including Lucifer, Judas Iscariot, and even Adolf Hitler. By July 1976, after months of extreme fasting and grueling exorcisms, Anneliese had died from malnutrition and dehydration. She weighed just 30 kilograms, 66 pounds, at the time of her death. Her parents and the two priests were charged with negligent homicide and sentenced to 6 months in prison. The case sparked worldwide debate about the dangers of religious extremism and the fine line between mental illness and possession. To this day, the recordings of her exorcism remain some of the most terrifying evidence of alleged demonic possession. 5. The Villisca Axe Murders, 1912, USA. On the night of June 9, 1912, in the small town of Villisca, Iowa, an unknown intruder entered the home of Josiah and Sarah Moore and brutally murdered 8 people, including 6 children. The attack was savage. The killer used an axe to crush the victims' skulls while they slept. The bodies of the Moore family and their 2 young house guests were discovered the next morning by a neighbor. Investigators found eerie details. The murderer stayed in the house for hours. Cigarette butts were found in the attic, suggesting he had been hiding there before striking. All the mirrors were covered. The killer draped cloths over the mirrors and reflective surfaces, a strange behavior that some interpret as ritualistic. No valuables were taken. This wasn't a robbery, it was a targeted attack. The axe was left behind. The killer wiped it clean and placed it next to the bodies. Despite several suspects, including a traveling minister who confessed but later retracted his statement, no one was ever convicted. The case remains one of America's most infamous unsolved murders. Today, the Villisca Axe Murder House is a paranormal hotspot, with visitors reporting eerie whispers, unexplained shadows, and the sensation of being watched. Some claim to hear children's voices crying in the night,